Twin flames are not toxic, and this is a very controversial thing that I see amongst the spiritual community in the relationship world because it's such a new thing, right? Twin flames are becoming mainstream, and if you're not very like grounded and understand twin flames at the core, you can kind of run with it and be like, oh, this is really toxic. Like, what is this? This is like some new age, unhealthy relationship thing. Twin flames are actually the epitome of a healthy relationship. It's really like if we've heard the term conscious relationship. That's like what twin flames are. It's like another word for twin flames, but it just goes deeper with twin flames. And so the thing about, the whole concept of twin flames being toxic, I think I'll just kind of say this right off the bat is that, your twin flame, for those who don't really know what a twin flame is or are really new to it, is that your twin flame is your perfect divine counterpart that God created for you. And they are your greatest teacher, your best friend, your perfect partner, your ultimate lover. And the thing about it is that before they are your ultimate lover and, all of those things, they're your greatest teacher. That is number one. That is the foundation. Teacher and friendship. That's like a foundation of the relationship. And the thing is that, because your twin flame is your perfect divine mirror that God created for you, and because of that, they're going to reflect the relationship that you're having with yourself on a very deep soul level and with God. And this can be very triggering. This is why like a lot of people kind of give up on twin flames or like the twin flame journey, because, if you don't have a foundation of inner work, you don't have a foundation of how to work through the triggers and the fears that arise on the twin flame journey when you meet your twin flame, it can feel a little painful. It can be kind of hard, and you're going to be like, what the heck is going on? Like, I don't know how to work this out. I don't even understand what's coming up, right? Because your twin flame is going to press on those wounds where you are, your childhood wounds, your traumas, all of these things that are really sensitive. And they're not like doing it intentionally. They're not like, yeah, they're not like doing that on purpose. They're your divine mirror. So they're, just them as a person, like it naturally presses on these wounds and these places. And so if you don't have that foundation of inner work to learn how to, love yourself in this place and to accept yourself and bring unconditional love here, it can feel, yeah, like I said, a little painful and challenging. You may think, oh, this is like toxic, but it really is just, there's no foundation of inner work to heal and move through that, to be able to sustain and maintain a relationship that you desire to have with your twin flame, which is actually meant to be really, really healthy and really divine and really rich in love and romance and, all of these things, but also really grounded, right? And in reality and healthy. And, those components of the basic relationship components of a relationship, right? Like communication, all of these different things, like that's still in a twin flame relationship. And like a lot of people who are on the twin flame journey, they think that kind of just like goes out the window, like the basic healthy relationship, the foundation of a healthy relationship goes out the window because it's all like, oh, super woo woo, but it doesn't. That's still very much a part of it. The difference is just that, well, they're your mirror and they're showing you the relationship with God and bringing you to love yourself deeper.
So
I'm curious what
let's dive into this. Yeah, because this is great. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I was in the camp for the longest time that a twin flame is just a trauma bond, and it's also a very toxic thing. And like, what the heck? Because the women who I was in relationship previous who said that I was like their twin flame, I look back and my experience was it was extremely toxic on both ends. You know what I mean? And so that's where I'm like, okay, well, maybe people are like misdiagnosing a connection as a twin flame connection because of some sort of intensity. I guess is this something you find?
That's a really great point. I love this so much. Yeah, that can definitely happen, right? Like misdiagnosing. I like that because ultimately, I used to be like that on my twin flame journey. Like I've been on the spiritual journey for a really long time. I started when I was like 16, 17 years old, and when I first learned about twin flames, I like ran with it. I was like, is he my twin flame? Is he my twin flame? Like I'd go to church and I'd be like looking for my twin flame, and I'm like, okay, this is this is like really unhealthy. Not every person, every guy you meet is going to be your twin flame. And then I later learned through my spiritual teachers that, Dr. Shalia, like there's a there's a revealing process that happens. It's a spiritual journey that you have to take to get clear and reveal if someone is your twin flame. And a lot of people will be like, oh, you'll instantly know that they're your twin flame. You'll just know. It's like, well, yeah, but no. There might be some blocks to seeing your twin flame. If you don't see yourself clearly, uh, at the core, then you're going to have a hard time seeing your twin flame clearly because you haven't spent enough time getting to know yourself and what your values are and what you want. And so it's really about you aligning with peace and your divinity. And the more that you do that, then it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, like this has got to be my twin flame, right? I'm gonna keep following my heart here and I'm gonna keep uncovering the pieces. But yeah, I definitely misdiagnosing. I experienced some false twin flames on my spiritual journey, and that was quite challenging. When you feel so sure that they're your true twin flame, but they end up being a false twin flame. And I certainly had that experience, and it is very much possible.
What's the what is that revealing process? Is it like a deeper knowing? Is it something that you can like teach
Hmm.
other people? Like how does somebody really
Yeah,
realize if it's actually a twin flame or not?
yeah. So when you go on your spiritual journey, and then this is like the burning question I always get people asking me, they're like, how do you know?
Mm.
And they think that they can have it confirmed. But like I said, it's a healing journey. Like the twin flame journey is first a spiritual journey, and the relationship with your twin flame is first primarily spiritual. Like it is a spiritual relationship. And so that means that you have to really work on focusing on yourself and healing what's arising. So if you feel like you met somebody who's your twin flame, right? Well, what's coming up for you, right? Triggers are coming up and, all these different blocks. You have to focus on healing what's arising on your journey. And the more that you do that and deepen within yourself, then the easier it is to see your twin flame clearly. But a really helpful trick that I taught my clients and is actually creating a love list. This is a really powerful tool. And so some people would be like, oh, well, you can't like manufacture a partner. Like that's like crazy. And that's not what it's about. It's that you already know who your twin flame is in your heart because you were created as one. And so because of that oneness that you share, like you already like automatically know like who they are, like what kind of person you desire, like, their values match your values. You have shared dreams and vision for life. Like you have a shared purpose. Your lifestyle choices align. These are all like signs of this twin flame. You're like automatic best friends. And so when you create your love list, you're spending time getting really clear on what you desire in a partner, their qualities, right? Like, do they hold space for you emotionally, right? Do they respect your boundaries? Like all these things, really important things that you desire, put that on your love list. And as you go on your twin flame journey and you heal what's arising, you want to keep an eye on that love list. Like, are they revealing themselves to, be this other way and hide who they really are from you? Or are they hitting all the sweet spots that align with you in your soul? And that's one of the most biggest ways to really know.
Right, and really hearing you say like the clearer you are within yourself, the more you'll know
Hmm.
because the twin flame journey is you are one soul, so you will know because you know yourself, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that, I wanted to kind of touch over because you had mentioned like, oh, I thought it was a trauma bond, right? And I think this is a really good piece to bring up about trauma bonds and like twin flames because I think a lot of people think, oh, they're trauma bonds, and how do I even know if this is actually like they are my twin flame helping me heal and not some like delusional trauma bond, right? So one of the key differences of a trauma bond and a twin flame union is when you heal, when you start healing what your twin flames are reflecting, you take responsibility for your life, for yourself. You don't blame them, you don't wait on them, you just heal. What happens is your twin flame actually becomes magnetized by you and they come closer to you in your life. So you heal, they get closer and closer to you, and they also reflect that healing. So that's like what makes twin flames superior to a lot of relationships is that, it's not you worrying about, oh, are we going to outgrow each other on spiritual journeys? It's actually you're growing at the same rate as one, and they're reflecting that healing that you're doing. And so they come closer and closer to you. Whereas in a trauma bond, um, they're not going to heal as you heal. So maybe you make some new choices and you are healing and you want to better yourself and you're trying to heal, but they're not meeting you in this place, right? It's sort of like they just fall away and they don't heal at the paces you do. You don't heal and choose as one, basically, is what I'm saying with a trauma bond. So that's really one of the core components. Biggest differences is that you don't heal and choose as one in a trauma bond. And in your union, like you're constantly doing that. Doesn't matter how it looks on the outside, whatever you're working through and whatever blocks is arising. And so the only way to uncover that is to heal.
I like that. You're still being chosen, and then you get this like positive reinforcement for healing more, almost in a way. It's instead of it being repelling.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because, you know, that's like the whole point of your union is to heal for your ascension. And I mean, that's the entire point of being with your twin flame. It's not just like, yes, it's the love and romance. Like you're gonna experience that with your twin flame naturally as you grow and evolve and get closer. But it is primarily spiritual and it's about healing and your journey towards getting closer to God. And when I say like ascension, I don't mean like, oh, we're ascending like off the face of the planet, like getting high. That's not what I mean. It's actually a very grounded thing. It's about creating heaven on earth here with your twin flame now with God and not like trying to ascend somewhere else, but being here with your twin flame and creating that heaven on earth together, is really, yeah, like that's the whole point of being with your twin flame, is like to live your life purpose and to create heaven on earth.
Yeah. One of the things that I guess I experienced and experience as a relationship coach is people on that more side of misdiagnosing or false twin flaming their twin flame and being like in it because this is my twin flame. They're so stuck on that story, but the person's not healing with them or it seems to be limiting in some way. I guess could you describe a little bit more of the journey of what being in a twin flame relationship looks like? Because you mentioned it a little bit, right? You mentioned like healing yourself, and then that's how you kind of get the clarity to know. And when you get into it, there's this huge like they're your teacher first before things start really getting good. Could you just like walk me through that,
Yeah.
maybe even in your own life? Like what that was
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. I like that question. So I guess like what it looks like, with my twin flame and Charles and I, there's like a foundation of friendship first that you do want to create. And it doesn't always start out that way. Sometimes you may like jump into things pretty fast. And that's okay. Like every pace is perfect, but ultimately like that's the place you want to start. And I know for Charles and I, like we were instant best friends. Like we inseparable. Like as soon as we met, I was obviously very triggered at first when I met him because there was things in him I was like, oh wait, that's in me too. Like this is really crazy. I'm like standing in front of like a male version of me, like literally me as a man. That's me. But we were instant best friends and inseparable. And, as we went along on our journey in our relationship, lots of triggers, lots of things came up, in the relationship. And I found that, it was a bit intense at times, but not in a way that's like, oh, terrible. But we definitely had a lot of patterns and things that we had to work through. And this was really like when we didn't have that foundation of inner work, like how to heal the triggers. And we found it like intense and like a lot of patterns would arise, and I found that once I found the teachings of union that I, share as an ascension coach and with my clients is that as I had that body of work, I was able to really like ground my union into a more stable, healthy place, to where it didn't feel like it's going to leave me, but it's here for an eternity and be able to create a healthy relationship with my twin flame where we're both like in alignment in our life and together and it feels like peaceful, and not like this, unhealthy thing where both of us want to run because what we're experiencing in the relationship is challenging, right? Because I mean, like, let's face it, like, relationships take work, especially a conscious relationship. And it's not always, like, easy. all the time. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. And oh my goodness, like love and romance every second. There's real challenges that come up, especially in your union. And it's okay, like whatever arises. And I know that on my journey with my twin flame, I think there would definitely be some people that would be like, oh, that relationship's not healthy. And, there's times where I had to maybe set boundaries. But as I healed, like things changed and shifted and it went into that more healthy, like, no, this is real love. We're just uprooting a pattern. We're healing, an unhealthy dynamic right now, a pattern that needs to be loved within myself, right? And to be able to receive and give love in a healthy way because I didn't know how to give and receive love. And really, when I met my twin flame, like I was like traumatized. I had a lot of baggage. I had a lot of things I had to work through, but I was like, I still am worthy and deserving of love, and the right person is going to be able to stand by my side, even as I'm still healing and hashing things out. So that was ultimately, yeah, like my journey with my twin flame. And, the thing about what it looks like and what it's meant to look like with your twin flame is gonna be unique and different to everybody, but every person is meant to have like harmonious union with their twin flame, where they don't feel like they need to feel like the relationship's gonna, we're gonna lose each other at any minute or, what's gonna happen. It's kind of like an undercurrent in a lot of relationships and that feeling like what if something happens or what if we split and break up or end up in separation. But, when you have harmonious union with your twin flame, it's like you're there for an eternity and you don't gotta go back to try to figure out how to get there again. You're there forever.
Would you say that that's met with just like commitment? Like having a devoted, committed partner would give that? And I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, does commitment alone bring that level of safety, or does it need to also be a twin flame? Because I can think about experiences in my past where I've committed and or they've committed,
Mm.
and there has still been that fear of something, somebody leaving.
Yeah, that's a really juicy one. I feel like I have so much I want to say.
We're here. Say it.
Yeah, there's just so much I want to say from that one. That's really good because you were saying how does it have to be a twin flame, right? Or is it just the commitment component? And I think um, that's a really good piece that you brought up because, you know, your twin flame is your divine ultimate lover. And while it could be nice to be with a soulmate or dabble with somebody who isn't your twin flame, ultimately, in the end, you would end up be settling in a lot of different areas in your life. It may not feel like it, like, oh, this is happy, we're great, we're in love, but you would be settling and sacrificing a lot of yourself in the relationship. And, one thing about like with your twin flame is that I shared previously, like you have a shared life purpose. And there's like this fantasy that you can't have, or not fantasy, but yeah, like it's a fantasy to have a perfect partner. Like that's not possible. What? You can have somebody that has all the traits and things that you want in the world? That's crazy. But your twin flame is that person. And so why would you want to be with somebody else when you can have it all, basically in a relationship? Even through the challenges, even the things that you gotta heal through, you can still have it all in love and romance. And that's essentially what it is with your twin flames. They match all of those traits and qualities that you desire so deeply. Now, this is why we have like so many romance movies in the collective consciousness. Like if you see like Bridgerton and like, Pride and Prejudice, like all these really romantic movies. It's because on a collective level, the consciousness already knows what love is and wants that deeply in everybody's heart. And that love's twin flame love. And so that's ultimately, it does take a lot of commitment on this journey, a significant amount of commitment. I mean, to have like harmonious union with your twin flame, it takes, commitment and persistence and honesty and trust and, all communication, like all of these different things to be able to have that and to attain that with your twin flame. But anybody can have that. And it first starts with you having that relationship with yourself. And when you cultivate that, have that, then you get to have that really juicy, rich romance with your twin flame. And once you get a taste of what it's like to be with your twin flame, I know a lot of people know this and you don't want to like go back Once you know, like, what it's like to experience love with your twin flame, I know a lot of people know that feeling. It's hard to try to experience, to go back to the contrast of being with somebody who's not your twin flame, because there's so much love there. And it does get you high, but that's not what the relationship's for. It's not for you to get high off the love to the point where you're like, something my spiritual teacher said, where you're like consuming the love rather than like growing and expanding it in a sense. But it's a very beautiful and fulfilling relationship that definitely surpasses many. And one of the things that I feel like makes it so superior is that it is first a spiritual relationship, like I shared. And the thing about with your twin flame is you get the best of both worlds. So there's a lot of people who, go to the Himalayan mountains to meditate or become a monk or a nun on the spiritual journey, which is really, really cool. And I highly respect that. I think that's beautiful. Like any endeavor to like find peace in God is amazing, but it's definitely one of the easier paths I feel like, of ascension. Whereas with your twin flame, it's like, it's harder because you have to face all of yourself and your triggers. And, on the easier path, like, being a monk, you don't get the richness and you don't get the richness and the benefit and like the depth of a romantic lover like your twin flame. You don't get that mirror to be able to help you really expand out deeper on your relationship with God. And so that's why with your twin flame, when you get that benefit to be able to face all of yourself and not just have like, oh, romance, but also the spiritual path. The spiritual path and the romance and the love, both those things marry together as one, and you don't have to like, take a vow away from love and romance, but you get that partner as well.
Right. You're really saying it's
I feel like
both.
I just like a lot.
Yeah, no, it's good. It really is both. It's the romance and it's the evolution and it's the growth. And I think I see people, and again, my own experience, where it's been one or the other. It's been just the romance and
Yeah.
just all the great stuff, but there's not a lot of growth in it. And
Mhm.
then you're like, wow, I was just using that as an escape, or I was consuming, as you said. And then there's the other that's all spiritual growth, and you feel like you're in a dojo, but there's the romance isn't there. I've been in more of those than not. And so,
Yeah.
I really love the blending of the two and really how that is the medicine and that is the magic of Twin Flame.
Yeah. Absolutely. For sure, it is medicine. That's what it is. It's like, it's medicine for the soul and be with your twin flame. And, sometimes when we're on a spiritual journey and, we face the medicine, whatever that may be for you. But for me, it's my union and God. And when you get that medicine, it's a little bitter at first when you face things about yourself that aren't so like pleasant, right? You're like, ooh, that's in me. I don't really want to look at that right now and heal that. But your twin flame is there to purify your consciousness back into alignment with God so you can have deeper harmony with God and in your life. And sometimes, yeah, the medicine's a little bitter before it becomes sweet. And that's what makes it so juicy, is because you do get the sweetness, but you have to have humility to be able to, face those parts of yourself and be honest with yourself and be okay with what's going to come up and arise when you are with your twin flame.
Very true. So, on my own curiosity here, because for those listening about twin flames, they're probably googling if they don't know already. But like, what a twin flame is, we already kind of went over that in a brief. Is it possible to actually not like to part ways with your twin flame and actually not carry out that path?
Yeah, there's a lot of people, everybody's on a spiritual journey, just in their own way, and they don't realize it, and not everybody chooses to be with their twin flame, and that's okay. Like some people, they don't want that in this lifetime, and that's all right, But yeah, some people do choose separation from their twin flame and choose to not be with them, right? Because they got triggered or whatever, and they, I'm gonna cut cords and I'm not gonna talk to you anymore. And usually, like the core essence of that and why so many people do that on the twin flame journey, right? Is they give up and they choose not to be with their twin flame is because they don't have that foundation of inner work. I had mentioned that before, but they don't have the foundation to really work through the triggers that arise that they're experiencing, and that are coming up so that they can stay with their twin flame and experience healthy love. And so what ends up happening, they end up kind of giving up and running off, and it's too hard and I don't want to deal with this. But it's just having that foundation so you could be able to sustain and maintain the relationship. And, you know, ultimately, in the end, yeah, it's just about choosing yourself. And if you choose yourself and you're healing, then your twin flame will choose you.
I guess in those instances, could somebody look back and be like, wow, that was my twin flame?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. There have been people that have come to me and they're like, she's my twin flame. It's 20 years ago and I know she's my twin flame. And, for sure, it can absolutely happen where you meet your twin flame and then maybe you kind of separate, right? Because you have a challenge, you have something to like work through and heal first before you can like come back together. A really good example of this, I like to refer to movies because I find film to be very healing for me and I'm very passionate about film. But in The Notebook, it's like the epitome of a twin flame movie. And you actually see this in The Notebook where, they're like together, they're in their love, but it's like, they're like teenagers, so it's like intense and all over the place. And they have that challenge where he's like poor, he has like no money, and she's in a rich family, and so they kind of end up breaking off because her dad doesn't really want her to be with him. And then it's not till later down as they've matured and grown up where they come back together and he's been stuck on her forever, but she's still like healing and kind of coming to that awareness deeper. But they end up coming back together in the end. And that is a really good example of like twin flame. Like that can happen with some twin flames where they didn't really like realize, or they separated because of a challenge like that where, you know, parents didn't want to be together, or finances or whatever, different bracket or whatever. And you end up coming back and realize like, wait, we were actually meant to be together. Like, what was that, And it was just, there was just a lot of healing that had to take place to be able to come back to that realization and come back, into union.
When you're talking about the work, like having a foundation of the work, what are you referring to there?
Yeah. So the foundation of the work that I am referring to is, so one of the common tools that I use with my clients is called the mirror exercise. This is like a big part of the teachings of union that I've been studying for over like 7, 8 years, the teachings of union. And the mirror exercise is one of the biggest and greatest tools that you can use to helping you heal through any of the blocks that you're experiencing with your twin flame. So when I say foundation of inner work, I mean applying the mirror exercise, because that is ultimately what's going to help you um, heal what's coming up with your twin flame.
And what when this mirror exercise, like what could you describe it a little bit for people who maybe haven't done mirror work
Yes.
or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the mirror exercise is not like you talking in the mirror. It's not what the mirror exercise is. Although that's great, I think everybody should do that, right? See affirmations in the mirror. I think that's healthy. The mirror exercise is, it works like basic like law of attraction. It's kind of like bouncing off that. That's really what it is. And um, we all know that everybody in our reality is like a mirror, essentially, on the same level. Your twin flame's different, right? Because they're like you remain as one with them, they're your divine lover. But everything in your reality is a mirror. And so what the mirror exercise is that it's teaching you how to take responsibility for your reality that you're co-creating with God, and how to heal what's coming up and make it a choice so you can experience something different. And so in the mirror exercise, I'll just like walk you through it briefly. Disclaimer before I get into the mirror exercise, this is not a blaming exercise. This is not an exercise where it's your fault, whatever, because I've had people think that. So that's not what this is. So the first step of the mirror exercise is when you get really clear on what you're upset about. So I'll use an example. So some people, they have like blocks with their twin flame where they're upset with their twin flame because they're rejecting them. So it's a really popular one. So it would be, I'm upset at my twin flame because they're rejecting me. So that would be step one. And then step two would be I'm upset at myself because I'm rejecting myself. And then step three is when you get really, really clear. Is there any truth to this? Like, is there a part of me I'm rejecting on some level? So that could be, right, emotionally, financially, like life purpose, like somewhere you're not paying attention to yourself and you're pushing yourself away, right? So that's where you establish, is there any truth? Yes or no is step three. And the hint here is that it's always going to be a yes with your twin flame. Even if it's just a tiny, tiny little bit, it's always going to be a yes because they're, right, they're your mirror, they're reflecting and helping you here. And then step four is when you close your eyes and you go within. And this is where I usually like guide my clients and help them. And you bring love into this space so you can like visualize what that looks like. And you want to ask yourself, like, what do I need here, right? Do I need like love? Do I need comfort? Do I need to feel like heard or seen? Like whatever that is, right? And you want to visualize that with your mind's eye, giving that to yourself and really loving yourself up all the way so you feel peaceful. Not just like half-assed, but all the way so you feel peaceful in that place. And then, yeah, imagine giving yourself a hug and integrating that part back in. So that's the mirror exercise. It's like so simple, but really powerful. And you can use it for not just like your twin flame relationship, but like literally every area of your life. Like the amount of miracles I've experienced in my life from applying this exercise and even with my clients and my friends and my community, like it's absolutely amazing. Like especially, with finances or like purpose blocks that, you can experience and whatever it is, like applying this is really, really powerful. It does take time to master, but when you do it more, you get better at it and it gets easier.
I love that, and I love how grounded that approach is as well. Where can people find out
Yeah.
more about you and the work that you're doing? Because you're definitely giving people the real thing.
Yeah. So you can visit eternal-devotion.com and then you can find me on Instagram at eternal devotion_. I couldn't get the little periods in there, but
I know how it is. Well, thank you for sharing your heart on the podcast. I really appreciate
yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.